A lot of men think that they are stuck because of what's happening right now, in this present moment. But often, that's not actually the case. What's really happening is that something in the present is triggering something from the past. Old wounds, old fears, old memories, and suddenly a grown man somehow feels like a little boy again. When that happens, most men respond in one of two ways. They either shut down completely, or they get angry, bitter, and aggressive. But neither of those lead to healing. This channel exists to help men get unstuck, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And sometimes the way that we get unstuck is by learning to guard our heart without hardening it. Today, I want to walk you through a real conversation that I recently had with a man navigating a painful family situation. Let's get to work. Last week, I had a text conversation with a brother who was walking through something really difficult. His dad and his stepmom were going through a court proceeding. And situations like that can open old wounds fast. In the middle of our conversation, he said something that immediately caught my attention. He said, "I feel like I'm 5 again." Think about that. A grown man, but emotionally, he suddenly felt like a little boy. That moment is incredibly important because that's exactly how unresolved emotional wounds work. Psychologists call this emotional regression. It's when a current situation triggers emotions that were first experienced earlier in life. Your rational brain knows that you're an adult, but your emotional brain remembers the original wound. So when something similar happens again, your body and your emotions react like they did the first time. That's why someone can suddenly feel like they're 10 years old again, or 15 again, or 5 again. The memory isn't just intellectual, it's emotional. And when those memories get activated, they can overwhelm you. So when he said that, "I felt like I'm 5 again," I told him something simple. Hey, you're not a little boy anymore. And that really matters because that little boy, he had no power in the situation. That little boy couldn't control anything, but a grown man may not be able to control everything, but he can control something. And it's something very important. Maybe he can't control the situation, but he can control his response. This is one of the central shifts of maturity, from reacting to responding. That's where Proverbs gives us incredible wisdom. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the springs of life." Notice something. This verse encourages us to guard our heart. It doesn't say ignore our heart. It doesn't say harden your heart. It says guard it, protect it. Guarding something means you're protecting it, that you're aware of what's happening inside of you. Being careful about what you allow to take root. Because if bitterness gets planted there, it will eventually grow and overgrow into every area of your life. In our conversation, I also told him something else. I said something like this: "Remember, man, these are broken people acting out of broken places." That statement's important because it doesn't excuse their harmful behavior. It doesn't justify their bad decisions, but it does help you see the situation more clearly. One of the most destructive things we can do in conflict is assume that everyone is operating from the same level of emotional health. Most people aren't. Many people are operating from wounds that they never processed, fear that they never faced, pain that they have never healed. And when people operate from those places, they often hurt the people around them. It's cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. Hurt people hurt people. There's actually a psychological concept called projection. Projection happens when someone carries unresolved pain or insecurity and then unconsciously project that pain onto other people instead of dealing with their own internal struggles. They blame someone else. They criticize, they attack, they manipulate. Not because they're always evil, but because they're protecting their own internal pain. And when you understand that, it doesn't make their behavior okay, but it helps you avoid something extremely dangerous. And that's taking everything personally. The next thing I told him was, you need to stay connected. Look, isolation amplifies emotional pain. There's a huge body of psychological research showing that social support is one of the strongest predictors of resilience. If you want to be resilient, surround yourself with people. Men who process stress alone tend to spiral, but men who stay connected to healthy community stabilize much faster. It's not that you're always going to be steady. It's not that you're not going to get knocked off balance once in a while. And it's not that you're not going to spiral. But it's that healthy community can be a stabilizing force and help you more quickly regain your footing. That's why Proverbs repeatedly emphasizes wise counsel and strong relationships. We were never designed to walk through life alone. So here's the real danger in situations like this. When old wounds get triggered, men tend to either retreat or become bitter. Retreat leads to isolation, and bitterness leads to destruction. Because bitterness doesn't just poison your view of other people, it eventually poisons you, your own heart. And once bitterness sets in, it begins to shape how you interpret everything, every conversation, every disagreement, and even every relationship. Everything starts looking like a threat. The better path is actually learning to do something much, much harder. And that is feel the emotion. Feel the emotion without letting the emotion control your behavior. Acknowledge the pain without letting the pain define your identity. Recognize the brokenness in others without losing your compassion. That's maturity. That's formation. We all know that family conflict is one of the hardest environments for emotional growth because it touches things that go very, very deep. History, identity, childhood memories, old wounds. But growth happens when a man learns something powerful. You cannot control what other people do, but you can control what kind of man you will be in the middle of it. You can't control what other people do, but you can choose to remain grounded. You can choose to remain compassionate. You can choose to remain faithful to who God is calling you to be. When family conflicts reopen old wounds, the goal is not to pretend that it doesn't hurt. The goal is to process the pain as a man rather than to react to it as a child. This means staying grounded, staying connected to community, guarding your heart, and refusing to allow bitterness to take root. Because when a man learns to do that, he doesn't just survive difficult situations, he thrives in difficult situations. That's the kind of work that we're doing in these coaching conversations, helping men see clearly so that they can move forward with strength, wisdom, and integrity. In coaching conversations, our goal is to literally help men be different.